I've got ancestors came over on the goddamned Mayflower.
What do you want for Christmas?
Are being raped and harassed across the country.
Reading about women and girls being raped and harassed across the country in like a stupid voice. That makes you sound misogynist as fuck.
That's a topic that, unfortunately, brings us inevitably again to J.K. Rowling.
When it comes to like providing gender-affirming care, these doctors are like supreme experts who know everything. But then when it comes to observing someone's sex at birth, suddenly they're just making their best guess and they're a bit clueless. Interesting.
I was assigned female at birth.
He wants to be a peeping Tom and is unhappy that these people don't want that to happen.
To do a little victory lap with this skin-crawling tweet. You know what? I wish...
Skin-crawling. Listen, it just goes so... Oh my god. The fact that you're so upset about this, it's just so fucking cool. I'm sorry.
Again.
No.
I wonder if it's going to be like a stress side to start the video, or it's going to be some, oh, I really didn't want to make this video, which I guess would make sense because they obviously didn't prepare enough to wash their hair. But yeah, we'll have a look. We got trans rights in the UK just got set back decades. Well, that's definitely not true to start with. Insane. But yeah, let's see.
You know, I have been a little bit stressed out with how much stuff is just airing right now. We've got a bunch of stuff I'm reviewing over my secondary channel. We've got new Doctor Who, which puts...
Oh, you're stressed about making content instead of doing a normal job. Poor baby. Council of Gawk. Haha, true. Captain's Lock. Started.
videos here, which means those are even more work. And I'm still trying to maintain my Saturdays.
Oh, this person, how much money they get? They get like $2,000 on Patreon. Oh, they're so put upon. They're so stressed at having to make videos and watch Doctor Who and then talk about it. When they get $2,108 a month for doing a job that loads of people would dream of getting that much money to do. I've never earned that much money a month at any job I've ever done. Like, look how stressful this must be. Talking about Star Wars Andor. Talking about a video game. Talking about Hollyoaks. What? Hollyoaks, okay, fair enough.
Schedule. It has been stressful, but honestly, I appreciate it because it's nice being able to have a Doctor Who video go up and have something fun in between all this nonsense, because next week's not going to be fun either. My alternate opening joke that I was considering was part of the problem with things getting so bad in both the US and the UK at the same time is...
How would you know? You're not here.
So much of my lineage is English, I can't even go back to where I came from and be okay.
Mate, this isn't Gaza. You'll be fine. Oh no, you might have to use the men's room while looking like this.
So there you go, you get a 2-for-1 for opening joke? Question mark?
Yeah, just more excuses to whine. I get it. This person's in his 40s, by the way.
But anyways, we're going to talk about what has happened in the UK recently, specifically in regards to a judgment made by the UK Supreme Court in regards to trans people. Now, there's a
in regards to what a woman means. It's not about trans people.
Couple of things I want to be clear about this before I get into it. Firstly, I'm not a lawyer. And more than that, I don't really even know the fundamentals of English law. I know that in many areas...
Then why are you talking about it? You're not even from here. So why are you talking about it?
There isn't that much of a difference between UK and American law, but there are a lot of small nuances and differences. So I'm already out of my depth just trying to read legal stuff in the US, but I at least kind of understand the basic foundations of some of it. The UK, I'm already kind of flying blind with that. So the ruling we're going to be talking about, this happened on April...
So this is an excuse for why he's going to be extremely ignorant about the whole thing and extrapolate all kinds of stuff. Like trans rights getting set back decades. What does that mean? How can it have been set back decades? Like, when was the Gender Recognition Act? 2004. Like, it's technically 2 decades. But I mean, they still change their legal sex. It's just that doesn't entirely matter in some instances.
April 16th. And there was a 4-page press version that was put out. And then the actual judgment is 88 pages. At my best, I was never going to be able to parse all this stuff. And even if I could feel like I understood it, as I said, I don't have the base of knowledge to be confident that anything I said would actually.
Then don't talk about it. Just carry on with your day. Carry on talking about Doctor Who in front of your massive army of pop figures.
Be accurate. And that's before we deal with the fact that there is a national shortage on my freaking ADHD meds, and I've been off them for 2 weeks now. So yeah, there was no way in hell I was going to be able to successfully parse this ruling. So if you're looking for a full breakdown of the legal mechanics of this judgment, I can't.
Maybe I should do this. Just start the video, every single video I do, with about 3 minutes of excuses for why what I'm saying is going to be supremely ignorant. And reasons as to why I probably just shouldn't be talking about this subject. Maybe I should do that. Jesus Christ, your ADHD meds. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry that you earn over $2,000 a month talking about fiction for a living. You're living the dream, bro. You need to stop whining. I don't know how people watch this shit, quite frankly.
Can't give you that, and I'm not going to try. That having been said,
I'm not going to try and understand the ruling, but I'm still going to talk about it. Fucking.
I can tell you what I do feel very confident that I understand, what is lacking in it, some of the consequences we're already seeing, who's celebrating this, and what they intend to do next. Because all of that I can understand, and that I can share with you. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about the UK when I am an American, well, I actually have a decent-sized UK audience, partially because I talk about Doctor Who as much as I do.
Yeah, it's for the audience. It's so that he can virtue signal to his audience. It's not about actually knowing any of this at all. It's not about actually having the ability to form informed opinions about any of this.
But also, like, it's not okay what's happening if it's anywhere. And, like, I don't have the spoons to talk about.
It's not okay that somewhere might base the word woman and the word man on sex. Why is that not okay?
Every single country that, does some sort of thing that is restricting of trans rights or harmful for trans people. But I need to not just only do America. Like, I can't do everything. I'm only one person, but I think that I've talked plenty about what's going on here, and it's still going on, to be clear, but I have friends in the UK, and I don't want them to think that I'm not noticing what's going on over there. So
yeah, so it's a massive virtue signal, basically. He knows nothing about this, doesn't understand my country, doesn't understand why women might need their own rights separate from trans women, when women and trans women are not the same thing. And plenty of us are not pretending that we're women. Plenty of us have not been saying, I'm literally a woman, and you're treating it exactly the same way as any other woman. Because I'm not. And I know I'm not. And if you were actually to look into yourself and think about it for any length of time, you know that you're not either. This isn't a woman. You go by she, they pronouns, for God's sake. That's a massive sign right there. My spoons, yeah, Jesus Christ. Like, we have to get as much of the pathetic shit out in the open first. Okay, bro.
Let's get into this thing. The very short version is that the UK Supreme Court unanimously decided that the 2010 Equality Act, when referring to the terms man, woman, or sex, referred explicitly and only to biological sex.
Based. Good. It's a good thing. Trans people still have their rights anyway. There's going to be some things that need working out. That's how it is all the time. How often do laws change? And then some work needs doing. So why have we still got almost 30 minutes to go?
Now, what this means is that any protections under the Equal Rights Act that are applied for women.
The Equality, oh my God, I hate Americans so much. I hate Americans so much. The Equality Act.
Is that any protections under the Equal Rights Act that are.
The Equality, fuck me. Why talk about this? I'm sorry. Why fucking talk about it? You don't even know what it's called. Oh my God, this is going to piss me off so much.
Applied for women don't apply to trans women. Now, that's the broadest possible sense.
Yes. For instance, women can get pregnant. Trans women can't. Make very little sense to have protections for trans women that circle around being able to become pregnant, because you cannot become pregnant. So there's already differences anyway.
Another little bit of context that...
So thinking about that, because this whole thing, I'm sure he's not going to talk about any of this, because why would he? A lot of it was about the fact that trans women were able to fill diversity quotas for women. So think about it this way. You have a trans woman and a woman as candidates for a job and you need to fill that diversity quota, well, the trans woman's never going to become pregnant. The trans woman's never going to need maternity leave and to take time off, potentially a lot of time if they ever get pregnant and have a kid. The woman might. Kind of seems like it's not very fair on the woman, potentially, if we're to let trans women fill diversity quotas for women.
Is worth putting out there. In the UK, they do have gender recognition certificates. I might be speaking slightly out of turn on this. I think that is sort of their equivalent of like getting permission to have the...
This lipstick is hideous, by the way. It's not a help, but why do this? Like, and at least wash your hair, man. Like, what is going on here? Didn't have the spoons for that either, I guess. Maybe if you made another fucking grand a month on Patreon, you might wash your hair for us.
Data on your birth certificate changed in the US, or at least it kind of is intended to serve a similar legal means in terms of your status. I don't know if what I'm about to say is literally true, but it certainly feels like this ruling kind of renders gender recognition certificate.
Oh, so it feels like it. Okay, so that's worth forming insane conclusions on this subject because of what you feel like as someone who's not even in this country. I don't know if you've even ever been to this country. Maybe you have.
Certificate's meaningless. Now, that's possibly an overstatement.
Well, I mean, people use it, like, a lot of it's affirmation, is it not? Having a certain thing on your birth certificate. To me, that's lying. I don't think you should be able to do that myself. But, like, a lot of it's to do with affirmation anyway. They have almost no use in society. And, like, you think about it, no one ever shows their gender recognition certificate for any purpose. So, what was the point in them anyway? Because it's like, well, you don't have a right to see that. Well, it's like, well, why do you even have it then? If not to potentially show it to someone that's questioning something.
And on my part, they may serve other functions, but one of the main things that they have effectively done is said, hey, regardless of what this person's gender was at birth, this is what they are recognized as now, and they should be treated accordingly in all matters, including legal.
Why? Why is that a thing that should happen? Why does that mean trans women should fill diversity quotas for females?
Legal. That doesn't really seem to apply anymore, at least in anything that is related in any way to the Equality Act. Because it is worth noting that this ruling, this judgment, is specifically about the application of the Equality Act. Now, that still has some far-reaching implications, but it is not a sweeping, in all matters, in all things, that trans people should always be treated and considered as the gender that they were assigned at birth, what they are calling biological sex.
Yeah, well, you're not assigned a gender at birth. Gender isn't an innate thing. You're talking about sex. These people can never get it straight. Gender, sex. It might seem like I'm being like nitpicky. It might seem like I'm being pedantic. But if you can't get your head around what the difference between gender and sex are, and you use those terms interchangeably, then why even talk about this? Like, all you're doing is making things more confusing, which, to be honest, some of these people, that's the goal anyway, but...
Sweeping in all matters, in all things, that trans people should always be treated and considered as the gender that they were assigned at birth, what they are calling biological sex. It's not quite that far-reaching, but it is pretty far-reaching in a way that I don't feel comfortable trying to parse. Because again, I don't know enough about how many facets of life over there the Equality Act actually touches.
More excuses. If you're going to make this many excuses, why are you talking about this?
I'd imagine it's a lot, but I don't have a breakdown, and I'm not going to be able to wrap my head around it. Now, while, as I said, I am not prepared to try and parse 88 pages of...
Like, you see what I mean, right? These people openly admit they don't have a fucking clue what's actually going on, yet they still feel the need to form all these conclusions and to say all this crazy shit, rabble-rouse their fan base. All these people that are, like, freaking out, pay attention to who is celebrating. Oh, what, women? Yeah, women are celebrating. Yeah, I wonder why, bro. I wonder why. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about these radicals that are like freaking out and they want other people to freak out with them instead of trying to reassure people, trying to calm people down. Let's see how the dust settles. Let's see what happens. But it's not about that. It's about I'm freaking out and I want you to as well. By the way, I don't even know fuck all about what this is. What an absolute hack.
Legalese based on a system that I don't actually know very well, and I can only barely say I kind of understand the American system. Again, not a lawyer. But I can tell you that there were a few scant things that I do feel comfortable kind of pointing out about the ruling. I am going to pull this from the full judgment, not the press summary, because I want to be as accurate as I can. The first is how they define biological sex, which is really thinly. Under term.
Yeah, what you observed at birth is how they define it. In 99.95% of cases, they're correct. It's very rare that a child is misassigned at birth. It does happen. But we're already talking about a very small amount of people that are not being accurately represented here. And what's the alternative? Should we start splitting people by their gender identity instead? Well, gender identity is something anyone could make up. Gender identity is something that someone could decide they're a different thing every single day. Gender identity is something that is affected by like your environment and your preferences and stuff like that. Meaning it's not an innate, immutable characteristic. It's something you can just decide you're something else. At least biological sex refers to something, that being your reproductive function. It's very clear that in general, you've got men and you've got women. It's not very often that you're seeing someone that you genuinely can't place in either of them. You know what I mean? Go back to talking about Sonic. I don't even think he talks about Sonic. He talks about like Doctor Who and stuff.
Terminology, they say that biological sex is basically just sex assigned at birth.
Yes, well, not assigned at birth, because the vast majority of people are not assigned sex at birth. What you're doing is lifting that from intersex, because you want to be able to choose to say that you were just told you were that sex, and that's not what you actually are. Which automatically means that you don't understand sex and you're not engaging in good faith.
And that's it. And that is not a lot to go on.
No, it really is.
I know that for certainly the TERFs and the gender critical movement, they always like to pretend like it's all very simple. But if you actually stop and think about what this means as a practical matter, this is so simple as to be unhelpful and harmful and definitely limiting. Here's what I mean by that. When we say sex assigned at birth, that is just a doctor looking at a newborn's genitals and making their own determination.
Yeah, observing sex, not assigning it. When we say assigned sex at birth, we're talking about people who there seems to be something wrong down there and they perform like a surgery, maybe to make sure that they're able to like urinate and something. And they will probably use their best guess as to what they think you should have been and make you look like that. Either way. This dude is fathered a child, by the way. Fuck me. Disgusting. That's what assigned sex at birth means. The overwhelming vast majority of people are not assigned sex at birth. They see what's between your legs. Is there a penis, you're a boy. Is there no penis, you're a girl. And in 99.95% of cases, we can even look this up, they're correct. So it's not a perfect science. Is anyone saying that it is? But I mean, we're getting into such small amounts of people that are potentially getting misassigned sex at birth, misobserved sex at birth. Vast majority of cases, 9.95%. I mean, we can find whatever source there is for this. And bear in mind, when people talk about intersex, they say, is it 1.7% or something? They're including things like PCOS and Klinefelters and all sorts of other things that are not actually intersex. They're just looking for any slight change, like a man has XXY instead of XY, but he's still male, you know? So how is that intersex, as an example? I don't know. Where would I find it? I mean, I haven't got an amazing source, I guess, but everything I'm looking at is claiming around 99.95% of people being correctly assigned their sex at birth. I've never met anyone that was misassigned. They're out there, sure, they exist. But what's a better way of splitting people? Bearing in mind, in general, there are a lot of differences between men and women. Bearing in mind, women have different needs to men. They're the ones that are going to get pregnant, you know? I don't know where I'd find this, to be honest. This is just about like DSDs in general.
It is literally just the doctor's best guess. A doctor that...
No, it's not. It's not their best guess. They can see it with their own two eyes the vast majority of the time. And also, I love it. I love how when it comes to like providing gender affirming care, these doctors are like supreme experts who know everything. But then when it comes to observing someone's sex at birth, suddenly they're just making their best guess and they're a bit clueless. Interesting.
That may be overworked and might have to be rushing off to go do something else. A doctor who is human and...
Yeah, doctors are so overworked that they don't know what a penis or a vagina are anymore, okay. Black lipstick is cursed, yes, I agree.
Humans make mistakes.
Brick lipstick, I prefer.
Just statistically. But even setting that aside...
Yeah, but this is cope. You were still observed male at birth. So was I. Where there are people that have slight differences, where there are people where it might be more ambiguous, I imagine they're handling it in a case-by-case kind of way. And like most people, I imagine, that are like ambiguous in that way, they probably prefer one presentation over the other anyway. They probably have been living their life as a male or a female because that's what they were led to believe they were, either way. Because like that kind of socialization is going to affect you as well. So they probably fit in one or the other categories better anyway. Like, we already know that occasionally people are not going to fit their like sex category in terms of how they're perceived. And again, if you look at like the ECHR, if you look at their clarifications and stuff, they're talking about how they will make like exceptions, how things are going to have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis sometimes. That sometimes trans men are probably going to have to go in the men's. Things like that.
Aside, some people have ambiguous genitals at birth or are intersex in some way. But the terminology that the court is using, as they define it within this judgment, does not make a single mention of the more complicating factors.
The other thing is, they're still saying it's what woman means. They're still saying it's woman means female sex. If you're going to say that, well, some people are intersex, well, maybe they're not women then. Maybe what they're talking about is females who were assigned observed female at birth correctly. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Maybe they have a slightly different standard for people that have DSDs. So this might not even matter anyway, because they were focusing on what it means to be a woman. So I don't know, I guess a woman means roughly 50% of the population. X chromosomes, vagina, ovaries, probably make eggs. If not, they should be able to, but they can't. They will be able to, they used to be able to, etc. So we're talking about women. So this is kind of irrelevant anyway. Like maybe they have a different standard. Maybe they consider it something else. Or maybe they have a backup specifically for people that have really like ambiguous like physiology. I don't know, man.
Factors of sex assignment. Things like, for instance, chromosomes, which are not mentioned once in this entire document. So what this is basically saying is, based off one person's at-a-glance determination
of something that is universally known and accepted and obvious to anyone. Anyone could take a job assigning sex at birth. Like, I'm sorry, man. This is supreme cope. You're just trying to make the word woman seem more ambiguous than it actually is. Maybe those people don't fit the word women. Maybe they want it to be man, woman, and intersex. I don't know, man.
That is what you will be.
Would this argument he's giving apply to him? No. This person is unambiguously male.
For the rest of your life, no matter what. Just think about that for a second. No matter how much you trust doctors, no one is perfect. No profession is perfect, and some people do.
Yeah, but this is just cope to enable people to say, oh, well, maybe I wasn't born the sex I was. No, you were, though. Intersex has always had its separate categorization. Well, then how is this even relevant? Like, how is that relevant then? All the intersex stuff is dealt with separately to what we call men and women. If that's the case, this is a complete red herring. Again, spends 6 minutes of this video talking about how he's completely clueless about all of this, but is now going into some pretty crazy stuff. Like, hang on, you're not a lawyer, but you're a doctor, you're a biologist, you know all of this kind of stuff. Like, I didn't hear you caveat that particular part. Interesting.
Do not have a straightforward situation that you could just get at a glance. And yet, whatever was put on a document, based off just looking from one person, is going to be what you're stuck with for the rest of your life.
Well, that's not even potentially true, by the way. Bro really wants to be intersex. A lot of these trans people are like that. I read a thing, I can't remember. Yeah, intersex pretenders. Like, bear in mind, this is like 37 cases. It's really not saying a huge amount. But I am sure that plenty of trans people, like the majority natal males, plenty of trans people pretend they've got stuff they don't have. And I think some of where this comes from is all of these memes of like, oh, well, you can't see my chromosomes. You don't know what chromosomes I have. I can infer what your chromosomes are almost certainly based on statistics and based on what I can observe. You know what I mean?
Regardless of whether or not there are more complicating factors, regardless of whether or not your chromosomes actually don't match your gender.
It's always a red herring, a really rank one when intersex is brought into this. Yeah, I have people that watch me that have actual conditions like DSDs or even something like PCOS, which gets lumped into this, even though if you have PCOS, should I say, you're female, polycystic ovarian or ovary syndrome. Who has ovaries? Women. There we go.
Genitals, which does in fact happen. Because another term that is not in the entire document is...
Okay, so maybe they're not relevant to what a woman is. Like...
intersex. There is not a single mention, and unless I am missing something, it really seems like from a...
This idiot, actually, he's going to be staying on this intersex thing for like minutes on end. This isn't the own you think it is, man. I'm sorry.
legal perspective, again, at the very least in regards to the Equality Act.
Like, I can see why this guy's so upset about this. It's because it might be suggesting, oh, you're actually just a man, and you can't be having that. That's actually the problem. Leave intersex people out of this. Is ridiculous. Yeah, I keep hearing from people. I can only imagine. It's a bit like, I have like some black people that watch me that find it very irritating when trans people start using like, it's like when that fucking Marty Reinken idiot was comparing themselves to like Rosa Parks and stuff like that. Or like comparing what's going on with trans rights now as analogous to what was happening with black rights like decades ago, centuries ago. When it's like black people like enslaved and stuff, all kinds of disgusting things were going on. What's the equivalent of like trans people? There isn't one. Saying we can't decipher sex is like saying contraception doesn't work because the rare times it has failed. Yeah, I mean, almost none of this science is like 100% settled. You're going to get what amounts to like genetic accidents and mistakes. That's not me calling people with DSDs mistakes. What I'm saying is accidents, mistakes happen, things that aren't part of the design, things that aren't meant to happen, that end up causing issues. We're really just applying like a belief system to that. It's a bit like Christianity. You look at the world. Here's why I think it was formed. You're looking at something and then post hoc providing an answer to it. Like, that's what we're doing here. We're not actually really observing what's going on. None of these people ever go into like specific examples. What they'll often do, oh, well, what if you have this anomalous feature and that anomalous feature and that anomalous feature, which no one in the world might ever have had, like, ever. Because they don't talk about the specific different conditions people have. Or for that matter, ever talk to people that have these kind of conditions.
Intersex people functionally don't exist. They need to be considered as either a man or a woman, regardless.
Just because they've defined woman as someone who was assigned female at birth, that doesn't mean intersex people don't exist. This is what I mean. These people have taken what is a fairly basic thing, that being an amendment to the Equality Act, and are like taking all kinds of bizarre conclusions from it. Oh, does that mean these people don't exist? No one has said that, bro. No one has said that. Why don't you look into how intersex people are actually treated in this country? But you wouldn't do that because you haven't got the spoons for it and you're too busy watching Doctor Who, buying more fucking pop figures with your $2,000 a month on Patreon, plus ad revenue, plus memberships, everything else. It's like these like ivory tower fucking whiners like actually do my head in. Like, I've been pretty used, especially more recently, to living off not a huge amount of money, and that's fine. But it also makes me really irritated when people who have been doing this a long time and have established a fan base and get a decent amount of money doing this are like constantly whining about everything. It's so pathetic. And this guy's like 40 something. Can you imagine how pissed he is? Even women with DSDs are women and he's not. Yeah, true.
Regardless of what is actually going on with them. And now, the term non-binary does appear twice within that document, but only to state that it won't be...
Yeah, non-binary is worthless. It's just a thing you call yourself. It doesn't even come with anything like changing your sex or changing your gender. Everyone's non-binary if you think about it, because almost everyone, in fact, everyone that I've ever known, they're not just purely masculine when they're male or purely feminine when they're female. Because when we're talking about non-binary, we're talking about gender. We're talking about social constructs. We're talking about things that people prefer that are considered like masculine or feminine. So someone that prefers male clothes when they're a female might have like masculine traits, I guess. They prefer certain masculine things. Non-binary is meaningless. Everyone's a little bit non-binary.
regarded because the UK does not issue gender recognition for non-binary identities.
Why should they?
Nor do they honor ones that are issued by other countries. And again,
Why should they? It's meaningless.
I can't stress enough, this is a massive, sweeping alteration and restriction and just change.
Restriction to what, bro? Restriction to what? They're defining what a woman means. All of this extra stuff is things you've inferred. Having spent how much of this video talking about how you don't know any of this and you haven't even read most of it? So what the fuck are you doing?
In terms of the legal standing of trans people, and it all comes down to one person wrote this down on a paper however many years ago, and now you are stuck with it no matter what.
That's retarded. No, they saw your genitalia, which gives you a 99.9+% of being the sex that they identified you as because they've seen your genitalia. All you're doing is framing it in a way that makes it sound arbitrary, but it's not arbitrary because you need a male and a female to come together to produce more babies. So literally is like the furthest thing away from arbitrary when we needed that to be a thing so that we could be here today, so that we could continue evolving and continue building civilization for the next generation and then the next generation. I mean, we're having a bit of a problem with that at the moment. Like, I'm sure his country is the same as mine. Our birth rates are not what they should be. But like, fucking hell. I honestly wonder if some of these dipshits, like, if we went in the future and we'd have carried on with this kind of logic, whether people would start forgetting, like, what sex even is and lose the ability to reproduce because they don't know how the fuck to do it. And we've destroyed all the framework for how any of that shit works. Sex is your reproductive function. You're either the impregnator or the impregnatee. Not difficult at all. Yeah, there's going to be variation. Hopefully, we're dealing with that variation case by case, or have a separate kind of classification for a person with a DSD versus your average woman. But it's about women. It's about how we define women based on a 99.95% accurate thing. Like, when you actually think about it, when you actually look into it, when you actually think about it in that term, it's actually pretty sound logic, no? I think what we've done is fine. I think what we've done makes sense.
So there is zero scientific basis for the court's classification
Zero scientific basis. You're actually retarded.
Of biological sex as being sex determined at birth, because when it's...
Yeah, because it's only 99.95%, I guess. Hi, Parry. Thanks for the raid. Hope you're all good. I love all of you. Zero scientific basis based on a classification that is correct in 99.95% of cases.
To one person wrote this down on a paper however many years ago, and now you are stuck with it no matter what. So there is zero scientific basis for the court's classification of...
This is cope. This is like supreme cope. Oh, it actually kills me. Actually kills me listening to this fucking person. I don't know how anyone watches this person, but somehow they do. He has this very sycophantic fucking, like, talking about the cigar thing. I thought she was mimicking Andrew Tate as a way to subtly come out as misogynist. Why would she do that? Why is smoking a cigar mimicking Andrew Tate? That doesn't make any sense. Why would J.K. Rowling want to come off as a misogynist when the whole thing that she's doing is about women's rights? And she's been framing that way. It's that way the entire fucking time. These people are delusional. But of course they're delusional. They're listening to this retard.
Biological sex as being sex determined at birth, because when it's written down on your birth certificate, they're not testing your chromosomes. It's not based off anything other than observation of your exterior genitalia.
Yes, which is correct in 99.95% of cases.
And of course, chromosomes are a complicating factor because it's not just XY and XX. There are quite a few variations that can happen. And the court considers none of this because if they actually considered the real science behind sex and gender, they wouldn't have been able to make this kind of sweeping judgment. Which is why I'm putting so much emphasis on this, even though the majority of transgender people are not intersex so far as the data shows. In order to apply this overly broad binary view of sex, they have to disregard an entire kind of person and pretend they don't exist. So we're already off to a really bad start. Now, as I said, this ruling technically only affects the interpretations of the Equality Act. So as I said, protections for women will not apply to trans women. And
thank you for subscribing. Abby, you. Hope you're good.
Protections for men won't apply to trans men. So
Have they never seen someone smoke a cigar before? Obviously not, apart from Andrew Tate. If you smoke a cigar, you are basically the same as Andrew Tate, and you should surrender to the Romanian government and stop people trafficking, or whatever the fuck he did. I don't know. I don't keep up with Andrew Tate. Is Andrew Tate the only human to smoke a cigar? Yeah, probably. Well, why they would make that association is because they want to smear J.K. Rowling by any means necessary. Because they're big mad that she's a good-looking woman who understands what sex is. They don't like those kinds of people.
If, for instance, a trans woman is harassed or discriminated against on the basis of being a woman, which many trans...
No, they're harassed on the basis of being trans, bro. There's a difference. I like cigars. Am I a boy now? Yes. Not only are you a boy, you are exactly like Andrew Tate in every way possible. Sorry, the A-Team reference went straight over their heads. I mean, I'd be surprised that it would go over this person's head because he's older than me, but most of these people are presumably like children. I imagine this person's audience are, for the most part, decently younger than he is.
women are perceived as, they have no protection for...
Mate, how often are trans women actually perceived as women? Who's out there perceiving you as a woman?
For that. Because as far as the Equality Act is now concerned, regardless of how you now look, regardless of how you are now perceived, regardless of how other people treat you, you're a man.
Yes. What's wrong with that? You're still a human. Men have rights just as women do. What's wrong with that?
And so if you are getting, harassed, treated, mistreated, or discriminated against based off the fact that you clock as a woman, you don't...
Yeah. You know that a man could be gender non-conforming. People could look at that man, think he's a woman, and then harass him. But he identifies as a man, so they're wrong. That's still not okay. Harassment is still not okay just because it's directed at a man. What the fuck are you talking about? I do sometimes wonder if the hate comes from jealousy. Oh yeah, absolutely. None of these people have ever written anything. Well, maybe some of them have, but they ain't doing much.
Don't have protection for that because, well, you're not a woman, so you don't get those protections.
Mate, you still get protections. Harassment is still not legal in this country. You're not suddenly okay to harass someone because they're a man.
Of course, that is not to imply that only people who quote-unquote pass are entitled to rights. That's absolutely not the case, and I don't want you to think that that's what I'm saying. But it is worth noting that there are trans women who look like this.
Mate, Abigail Thorne does not look that much like... Hang on.
That's absolutely not the case, and I don't want you to think that that's what I'm saying. But it is worth noting.
AGP smirk. AGP smirk.
That there are trans women who look like this. And as a result...
I mean... I can tell all of these are trans. I guess it doesn't help that I'm being told that they're trans. I'm not sure how much any of these people pass. Like, the head shape is kind of a giveaway. Even on the ones that look kind of pretty, you know?
Will be treated by most people as a woman, but they will have none of the protections that a woman assigned that at...
Well, any man that looks like a woman still has rights. Any man that looks like a woman, it's still not okay to harass them.
Birth would have. In terms of practical matters for the kind of stuff that can happen.
How tall are they? I had no idea. Some of these people, they might pass a little bit in pictures and that. If you're around them personally, it's another matter. It's the same with me. You might look at someone like me and think that I pass on camera. Like maybe some people, I don't know, I'm not saying that people should or do or whatever. But they might see me in public around other people where I'm just bigger and like my head's bigger especially. Bigger hands and feet, stuff like that. It's a different story. Why is she just outing passing trans people? I don't know. Someone should ask her that.
Happen? Well, it's hard for me to extrapolate out. Like I said, I don't know how many different aspects of life the Equality Act touches. But what I can give you is an example of...
Yeah, again, that raises the question why you're talking about this and forming so many crazy conclusions. Council of Geeks fencing short. Supporting Harry Potter is supporting transphobia. Hey, everyone, do you remember the Hogwarts Legacy boycott? Do you remember what happened with that? Oh, shit. More people bought copies of the fucking game because they find you activist types annoying as fuck. Let's keep that going, though, I guess. Fucking retard.
You know, every now and then I pop on to the BBC News to see how they are covering trans issues and or whether or not the transphobia appears to be properly dying down, because I have this warning at the start of all my reviews.
Yeah, this is dumb. The BBC doesn't have transphobic leanings. How do you show that? Oh, you watched a Sean video. That's probably what you're basing this on.
Of Doctor Who, and I don't just want to assume that it remains true. I want to look into it now and then. And I have continuously,
AKA read one article that doesn't 100% align with your views. They're transphobic.
found reasons to keep it there. This latest one has to be the pettiest. On the part of the BBC, you can accuse me of being petty too, but I'm not a massive organization. They ran this story test against a transgender opponent. This happened in Maryland, in the US, at a university level. So this is not professional. This is not Olympic.
Wait, so women's right to have their own sport shouldn't matter if it's in university and isn't the Olympics? Like, fucking hell. Doesn't make any fucking sense, bro.
This is something that should never be making the news anywhere other than the local region where it happens.
Why? Is that up to you? How do they determine what gets traction?
Or potentially some national level in the US, probably best put in like a collection of other stories for somebody assembling kind of a broader look at things. Why is it newsworthy to the UK for...
Well, because we have issues with this going on in our country too. We had a pool tournament. It actually was the Olympic qualifying matches, was it? I'm not sure. I didn't see. Either way, those fencers, any athletes, they have to come up from somewhere. So why would you want all the men in the women's? And then when it gets to a certain point, stop the men? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, we're having problems with this in our country too, so it's kind of relevant to us, no? We had a pool tournament where the two finalists were both men, and it was meant to be a women's tournament.
For you to note this. Oh, and of course, the person who actually took the knee and was disqualified basically openly admits that she was doing it as a statement.
Yes, a statement that she's not happy about men being in women's sports, you retard. There are potential advantages that the average man would have in fencing over the average woman. So that's why women want their own sports. And you're a man telling women that they should just get over it, just allow this. Well, they disagree with you, bro. You can't stop that. Maybe come up with an actual argument as to why trans women should be allowed in women's sports.
She is quoted in the article. The trans competitor is not quoted at any point.
Why do they have to do that?
Granted, the quotes from the person who took...
How do you know they didn't reach out to that person and didn't hear back? How do you know that they had any way of getting in touch with that person in the first place?
The knee came originally from Fox News, but, you know, BBC, you're also a news organization. You don't have to just regurgitate Fox, though, if that's what you're going to do. Boy, you're...
Even drink. He sounds like fucking drunk as shit in this. God, this is like, I have absolutely no idea who watches this shit, honestly.
You're really giving the game away, aren't you? I know why you're doing it. It's not newsworthy to anyone other than those who want to continue to perpetuate the outrage and campaigns against trans people.
Yeah, campaigns against trans women going into women's sports, because males tend to have advantages over females in almost every kind of physical competition.
You have to keep finding this stuff. And the fact that you had to go to Maryland to find something that you felt was worth...
Oh, is the BBC not allowed to report on Maryland specifically? I didn't realize. Wow.
Reporting on. Yep, not getting rid of that warning anytime soon.
An absolute fucking loser. I'm actually so sick of this person. We'll watch a bit more, but like, this person actually fucking sucks, man. Who watches this shit? Who watches this? How in need do you need to be of someone validating your bullshit identity in order to debase yourself by watching this shit?
something that was already changed. In fact, it changed almost immediately after the ruling came down. And that is the arrest and search policies for the transport police. They amended their strip search.
I wonder if he's going to mention that female officers might not want to search trans women, males, biological males. But it's never about how women feel. It's always about how trans people feel.
Search policy, which previously had women officers handling both cis and trans women and men officers handling both cis and trans men. Now, as it is...
Yeah, are they happy with that? Are they comfortable with that? Do they get a say?
A trans woman, regardless of possession of a gender recognition certificate and regardless of her current physical appearance, state, or even what genitals she currently is in possession of, will be strip searched by a man.
Yeah. So what? They're male. That might be a thing that happens.
And please keep in mind, these are not prisoners, and this is not about what jail people get sent to. These aren't necessarily even people who are actually guilty of anything, because an arrest does not automatically equate to guilt. And again, this change happened almost...
Well, yes, but at the same time, innocent people generally aren't getting strip searched or arrested.
Most instantly. Now, naturally, this is also going to bring about the enforcement of what gender criticals have claimed to want for a long time, which is the idea of single-sex spaces. This has been at the heart of so many gender critical and TERF talking points from the beginning.
Let me guess. He wants to be a peeping Tom and is unhappy that these people don't want that to happen. I'm going to guess. Listen, bearing in mind how utterly bad faith this whole video has been, I'm just going to do the same. You're just mad that these people aren't letting you be a peeping Tom. That's what it is, isn't it? Can't come to this country and hang out in the women's anymore. Sorry about it.
But especially in the UK. But of course, the talking point is always about we're keeping men who just say that they're transgender out of women's spaces like bathrooms, lockers, etc. And they may claim that this does that, but it doesn't. Not really. Because first of all, it is going to force trans men, some of whom look like...
No, it's not. Also, Jamie Raines is fucking... This is a man. Then... I don't even know. I'm like trans myself. I guess I kind of rejected my own manhood. But I'm still offended at the idea that this passive-aggressive fucking freak counts as a man. Listen to this person talk for any length of time. Nothing manly about them.
Like this.
And it's not forcing them into the women's because they look like men, so they're going to be fine just using the men's. Also, if you look up the clarifications from the ECHR, they're literally saying there's going to be instances where the trans men are probably going to have to use male spaces because irrespective of their birth sex, they're still going to get perceived as male. So like, this is the most dumb talking point, and every single fucking person I watch has brought this up. It's worthless. These people are all fine in the men's. Why wouldn't they be able to use the men's? Who's going to complain about any of these people so long as Jammy Dodger keeps his fucking trap shut, which I wish he would do in general? Who's going to have a problem with them in the men's? You retard.
Into women's spaces. And if you
No, it won't. You're talking bollocks. I'll agree that anyone who is like, oh, now that this ruling has happened, no trans women are ever going to be in the bathroom ever again. I think that's a bit much. I think that's a bit ridiculous. It's not going to happen like that. But to pretend that trans men are forced to use the women's now, that makes no sense and isn't backed up by the fucking ECHR. So what are you talking about?
think that that's going to go over all peachy keen, it's not. Not for anybody. Not for the trans men, not for the gender critical people, not just for people who are just trying to use the spaces normally and suddenly somebody with a full beard.
It's a good job they're not actually forced to go in there then, isn't it? Yes, they're considered women, but we've already got like cutouts in the law, bearing in mind some of these people are female, but literally fucking resemble males. That's already accounted for in the law anyway. Fuck me, man. I don't know how much more of this I can do because this person is like actually nuts, actually retarded. These are the exact kind of people that I'm talking about when I say that these activist types are actually causing a lot of harm, because what they're doing is riling people up, making them think that all this shit means so much more than what it actually does and that their life is over now or whatever the fuck. It's ridiculous. Just because you're freaking out, it doesn't mean that you should start freaking everyone else out. It doesn't mean that you should try and bring people up to the same level as you. Lipstick and long hair isn't enough, clearly. Yeah, Jesus. Oh, I mean, it would help if he washed his hair occasionally. Might look a bit better. I used to watch him up until I peaked. Yeah, I never watched Jammy Dodger, to be clear. If I did, it would have peaked me much quicker, because there's always been a sense of like, this gender identity shit really isn't as meaningful as we're pretending. It's a really shaky grounds to divide people, delineate people. Oh, well, you're male because you say you're male. Well, you're female because you say you're female. You're a mule deer because that's what you identify as. It's just silly. It's Peter Pan syndrome shit. Like, you are what you are, and there's no one way to be either sex. And if you're intersex, well, the hope is that there's some kind of provision for those people too. Hairline of the Count from Sesame Street. Yeah, I see that.
Beard and who's balding is in there and having to say, I'm sorry, the law says I have to be here.
No, it doesn't. There is no law about, oh my God, these people are so fucking retarded. What law has been introduced about bathrooms in this country? What law are you talking about? There's been a clarification to the Equality Act. That's not a new law. What are you talking about? What bathroom laws have been signed into fucking effect? There still isn't laws about which sex should go in which fucking bathroom. There aren't any. What law are you talking about? Fuck me. This is the problem. He'll like caveat for 6 minutes straight about how he's not a lawyer, but he'll state this kind of thing with such authority, and people will listen and believe him. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he's correctly pointed out that he doesn't know fucking shit about this and shouldn't be talking about it in the first place. Like, fucking bizarre.
Which is the other thing. The scenario that they're always throwing out, that conservatives, gender criticals, and TERFs are always saying, I was like, oh, some guy can just claim that he's trans and just walk on in there. Well, you know what's going to happen now? At least...
Are there even cases of trans men attacking women in the bathroom? I've not heard of any, but like, it's more about perceiving that there's a male person in your midst. And like, there are examples of men attacking women in the bathroom. And you're not necessarily going to know the difference.
Will happen as much as that ever happened, which for the record is almost never. But if we're dealing with hypotheticals, let's be upfront. This doesn't fix
Would I need to Google Elvis? Yeah, probably. Who the fuck's Elvis?
that problem, because now those
I didn't watch Sesame Street growing up. Leave me alone.
same men who want to creep on women that you are convinced trans women actually are, but those same people can just stroll in and go,
I remind you of Alanis Morissette. I'll take that. Thank you. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, thanks.
oh, I was assigned female at birth. I'm supposed to be in here. So this doesn't even fix their surface level thing that they claim.
Is it claiming to fix that? Is it intended on fixing that? Bathrooms wasn't the reason why this came up. It was about quotas. It was about diversity quotas that were supposed to favor women, but were allowing men in. You know what I mean? Why are we going on this massive tangent about bathrooms? Oh, well, this won't fix the bathroom problem. Well, it's not claiming to. There's no laws about fucking bathrooms. Still now.
Was what they were fighting for, but it never was. Now, to be clear and fair and balanced, trademark some more news. The Equality Act does actually say you are not permitted to discriminate against someone who has had gender reassignment and has their gender recognized as having changed. Basically has a gender recognition certificate. You are not actually allowed to discriminate them on that basis.
You're not really supposed to discriminate against anyone. You're not supposed to discriminate against someone for being a man either. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you, Gypsy Lee. I'll take that. Listen. Google. Shut the fuck up. Listen, I'm that person. I don't always know who celebrities are, and people like take the piss at me for it. That's fine. Listen, you can take the piss at me for not remembering what the Count from Sesame Street looks like.
But of course, you can only discriminate against somebody for being trans if you know they're trans, which brings us right back to what we were talking about before, which is, be they trans man or trans woman, anyone who clocks and looks like the gender that they in fact are, but who is being treated as such.
How can you be a gender when gender is a social construct? How can you be a gender? That doesn't make sense. You are a sex. You'll gender yourself a certain way via your presentation. You'll be gendered by others based on their perception of you. That's how gender fucking works. Liz Fair. I can't remember what she looks either. Like, I know what Alanis Morissette looks like. I don't know. Do I look like this person? Maybe slightly. I don't know. They're all... They look more like women than I do, though.
By another person, and that person is discriminating them on the basis of, well, you're a woman and I'm being misogynistic to you and I'm treating you poorly for that, trans people wouldn't have those protections. And it's only going to apply if it's clear that the other person even knows that they're trans. Of course, this is a group that insists we can always tell, which is demonstrably not true. Follow me.
How would you know whether it's demonstrably not true? If they can always tell, then maybe they can always tell.
More over on Twitter for prime examples of why that's absolutely not the case. But you know what? I'm sure for some people, the fact that the Equality Act says...
So angry at the idea that people know what your sex is regardless. I know what your sex is. It's very, very apparent about you.
You can't discriminate against someone just because they're trans means that this doesn't really even change anything. This isn't really a problem. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. This is just clarifying some stuff. It's just clearing up some confusion. You still have protections under the Equality Act. What are you even complaining about? Well, first of all, that entire line of thought has the exact same tone and flavor as the right-wing grifters in the US.
Oh, so it sounds like someone else saying something. That's not an argument, bro. Why is it bad?
Who kept saying that Roe v. Wade being overturned wouldn't actually change anything.
It's all Roe v. Wade overturning means that Colorado, can have abortions like they have all the way.
Yeah, this has got nothing to do with that. England is not America. Like, what are you talking about, bro? What's the equivalent of Roe v. Wade in the UK? When all of our counties don't set their own laws on abortion. The fucking country does. In the US, it's been put back to the states. The states are deciding individually. There is no equivalent of that in the UK. This is not a good analogy. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, this looks like Steven Crowder saying this. That's not an argument. That's bullshit.
All the way up until 9 months. Yeah.
Look at his fucking source. The GOP sure hates women and children. Some more news. Yeah, find a more biased source, bro.
Texas can have a heartbeat bill.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to be let 1,000 flowers bloom. It's going to be each state gets to decide on its own specific abortion protocols, which is precisely what the Constitution suggested at the time.
Most abortions now, even when you go to a clinic, are done with the pill.
Yeah.
The pill. And pills are easy to get in America. We know that.
They were lying too. Of course it was a big deal. They knew it was a big deal, and you could tell they knew it was a big deal by who was celebrating it.
Two different countries. It's two different scenarios. You're saying they were lying, but you haven't actually shown how in any meaningful way.
Which, that's a topic that, unfortunately, brings us, inevitably, again, to J.K. Rowling.
Jesus Christ. If this person makes you this mad, then why keep talking about them? Why keep wasting your fucking mental health, focusing this hard on a woman that you don't like? I'm pretty sure this fucking guy has made so many videos about her. You're like obsessed. This is crazy. All you ever do is talk about J.K. Rowling. Isn't it weird how you've been talking about J.K. Rowling for years and years? And she's still winning. She's still completely fucking bodying you and all your friends. Why not just ignore her? Why not just chill the fuck out? Nuts. Crazy.
That's a topic that, unfortunately, brings us, inevitably, again, to J.K. Rowling. She decided...
We're not misogynists, though, don't worry.
...to do a little victory lap with this skin-crawling tweet. And you know what? I wish...
Skin-crawling... Listen, it just goes so... Oh, my God. The fact that you're so upset about this, it's just so fucking cool. I'm sorry. It just goes so fucking hard. And the fact that you're this angry about it only makes it cooler. Only makes it go more hard. J.K. Rowling derangement syndrome. Yes, 100%. It's a very, very common thing, unfortunately. These people should have just been leaving her alone the entire time. This like hate campaign hasn't worked and hasn't helped. Has only given people easy ammo to call you misogynists. Especially when none of you have anything to say ever about the kind of death threats and rape threats and shit that this person gets all the time. Initially for saying that sex is real. Like, yeah, she's probably gone like... It's probably become like a... What's the word? It's like perpetual now. Like two sides going at it. But that's what happens when you're like pilloried and harassed for the same thing for years on end. It makes most people go a bit crazy, I would have thought. And she's still winning. I'm sorry. This just fucking slaps, man. It's just hard as fuck. Where's that Andrew Tate bit? Does he mention Andrew Tate? He might not actually. Hey, listen. Low bar, but we might be finding something positive about this person. But let's not speak too soon.
He decided to do a little victory lap with this skin-crawling tweet.
Oh, just stop making it seem so cool, man. That's all you're doing. You're just making her seem cooler. The more you people soy out about this tweet, the cooler it looks.
You know what? I wish I could appreciate the irony of the fact that she is pulling a quote and a little bit of a pose that is inspired by a character made famous by an actor who is alleged to have ensured that his female co-star from the first season was fired because he wanted all men in leading roles
What?
for that damn show. But this whole thing's too gross
God, that was fucking cringe.
for me to even appreciate that with an ironic chuckle. And make no mistake, this should be taken very literally. She is taking credit. She helped fund the lawsuit brought by 4 women in Scotland that brought this case to the Supreme Court in the first place. She put 70,000 pounds, nearly $100,000 US, into their coffers for them to be able to bring this suit. She funded this, and she's taking credit for it publicly.
The suit about women in diversity quotas being for women, not men. Here's this person speaking, Council of Geeks. This is one of those channels that talked about fiction or sci-fi or whatever for a long time, and then trooned out, and now does this mixture of like sci-fi stuff and social justice stuff. Like, this channel is like ancient, like 12 years ago. And there used to be more of them, but it's just this person. I guess they were too unbearable for anyone to want to work with, which doesn't surprise me. But yeah, it's just all about like nerd stuff. It's just yet another fucking nerd culture channel that trooned out. And now they do this. I bet if I watched some of the old stuff, I wouldn't relate much to it. I'm not really into like geek culture or anything. I don't watch Doctor Who or like Star Wars or anything. But I'd probably at least understand like the appeal. This I don't. This I don't know who the fuck is watching, except for people that are as delusional and brainwashed as this person is.
So first of all, I never want to hear again how supporting Harry Potter does not directly fund transphobia, because this is what your Harry Potter
you're a moron.
Money bought. But the thing is, this gross...
You can never spend another dollar on Harry Potter ever again. She will still have more money than you can ever dream of.
This tweet actually makes a point that I want you all to internalize.
Remember, kids, definitely take advice from a grown man who surrounds himself with children's toys and believes he's a woman. Yeah, true. Hi, Kelly. I hope you're good.
It is important, now probably more than ever, to realize, appreciate, and understand. Laws change because people organize and have a plan. The law is malleable, and if you...
Yep, the trans rights organizations are neither organized nor have any kind of plan. All they do is hold protests where they say trans women are women and trans rights are human rights, and then advocate for smashing capitalism and all kinds of shit that people don't want. So of course your shit isn't working.
If you know how to come at it and have the backing to do so, you can change it. And that in and of itself is kind of neutral because it can be done in either direction. Every single protection and benefit you currently enjoy exists because people fought for it and had a plan on how to achieve it. Weekends, overtime, child labor laws, the Civil Rights
Yeah, so why don't you talk about how much your fucking movement sucks then?
Act, women's right to vote, all of it only exists because people planned and worked. And I really feel like...
I mean, women's vote, I mean... I don't know about in other countries. Like, part of that, I think, in this country was the fact that all the men went off to war. And the women had to fill a lot of jobs and stuff. And people had to start taking notice. Oh, shit, it looks like women can actually do things. Like, wow. But hey.
Way too many of us have lost sight of that. There's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." And I think he's right. But I think he's right for...
Yeah. Kind of seems like now men can't take women's places on diversity quotas and stuff like that. Kind of seems like women got their rights back. I think he's speaking truth.
For reasons too many of us have forgotten, if we ever understood it. I think that when he said that, he understood that with continued work, for all the struggles and how long it takes, we will make progress. It will bend in the correct direction with the pressure being applied.
Yes, but what's the correct direction? You don't know.
But I think too many people, or at the very least too many people in privileged positions, have a tendency to see a quote like that and think, oh, well, the arc of the moral universe just...
Why do all these people have a victim complex? Well, this person has no real problems. He gets over $2,000 a month just on Patreon alone. Let's ignore ad revenue, memberships, stuff like that. YouTube memberships, PayPal tip jar, Ko-fi. How much does he make on Ko-fi? Who knows? He has an Amazon wish list. Why do you have an Amazon wish list when you get so much money for making videos an Amazon wish. You want people to buy things for you? Why can't you buy your own shit? It looks like you can afford fucking plenty. Look at all this shit, man. This person has no real problems. Of course, that's what they end up fucking doing. Would you say I do? View gallery. This is what they mean by drag model. This, I guess. I don't know about this, man. I'm not sure about this. Whoa. That's surprised that thing didn't explode. Oh, you can see you can see his fucking pubes. Nasty. Nasty. Put it away. What is this? Jesus fucking Christ. It's like beyond parody, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you want for Christmas? It's okay to tell me. Oh my god. Anyway. But yeah, these people have no problems, so they have to find anything they can to shriek about.
Just bends toward justice. It's just headed there on its own. That'll take care of itself, won't it? No. No, it won't. I have said before that part of the reason the right has regained so much ground is because they have never lost sight of the fact that this is a fight. All of these are battlegrounds, and they have never stopped treating it like a fight. But a whole bunch of the rest of us
Yes, but this for you is a LARP, so I don't know what you're talking about.
did. Far too many, who are people who don't want to see rights reversed or revoked, are acting like, well, it's a finished issue. Once the right is secured, you can relax. It'll always be there. It's in the law books now. We don't have to worry about it. No, you have to fight to keep whatever rights and privileges and benefits that you have. You have to fight to keep them just as much as people fought to get them for you in the first place. And we are currently living in the reality that exists when you don't bother to do that. We are watching the rollback of
What fighting should they be doing exactly? Are you perhaps overstating how much power any one person has over any of this shit? Like, I don't know, man. This person probably was going around telling people to vote blue, so I guess he's got that going for him, but like, Jesus.
of queer rights, not just trans people. It won't stop there. We are seeing
Queer rights isn't a thing, bro. Queer rights can't be a thing because queer is just calling yourself a thing. It means nothing. Queer is not a group of people.
child labor laws be discussed
He's talking about what women are doing now. Yeah, true.
being rolled back in places like Florida. Everything can be undone if you do not defend.
Listen, Bo Blacks. Listen, I would take 100 Bo Blackses over one of this fucking loser. That's for sure. He's so aggressive, I wouldn't want to bump into him anywhere. Yeah, it's interesting how the male rage just comes out. Even when you're trying to convince people you're not a male.
Defend it. And make no mistake, it does not stop at trans people. It was never going to stop at trans people. And I know some people are going to say this is hyperbolic. No, let's actually talk,
Mate, it's been hyperbolic since like 6 minutes
in detail about the next target that UK TERFs have already picked. As a case study, we're going to look at Jess Gill. Now, Ms. Gill is the founder of Women's Safety Initiative in the UK. And right after the ruling, she tweeted out this.
We've won the battle against trans ideology. Now it's essential that the gender critical community.
A fucking voice. Listen. You've won the battle against trans ideology. I mean, not really. It's still very much a thing. Now it's essential the gender critical community speaks out about the danger of mass immigration for women. Bruv. There's a lot of things going on when it comes to like immigrants in this country. Do you understand any of that shit? What are they doing? They're talking about wanting to lower immigration. I don't know, bro. That's quite a common sentiment, you know what I mean? Oh, is that Jesse Gender? Jesus Christ.
Are being raped and harassed across the country. If you truly care about.
Yeah, reading about women and girls being raped and harassed in across the country in like a stupid voice. That makes you sound misogynist as fuck.
Women's safety, you need to speak out against this.
What kind of reading voice is this? This is the reading voice of someone that is extremely mad and pretending that they're laughing, but actually they're just extremely mad. Has Vera heard of the rape gang scandal? Almost certainly not. And if they have, they either don't believe it happened, which it did. You don't have to like you don't have to generalize all Muslims as being this, that, or the other to accept that the grooming gang shit happened. That was like real shit. And that maybe there are some issues with certain groups of people that come over that aren't really integrating when you kind of need people to integrate. It's the same with trans people. We don't want to integrate. We don't want to assimilate. Well, then, I don't know. You're always going to be a problem to the rest of society then. It's the same thing. So what? They're going after a different group of people? They're also assimilating? They're also causing problems in society? Am I supposed to be bothered by that? Am I supposed to think that's a bad thing?
So sorry.
See, all that laughing, they're big mad. They're highly offended by all this. And this is their way of coping. It's pathetic.
Oh, my cat is here. He's concerned by that voice. I keep up.
How long does this go on for?
An instant pivot from protect us from men in our spaces to protect us from immigrants. Barely a pause, barely a breath, instant shift.
Yeah, so that person is also against mass immigration. So fucking what?
And it was always going to happen. And just to make the point, let's actually examine that sign being held up in the middle right there. The one that says 1 in 4 sex crimes is committed by foreign nationals. Let's set aside for the moment citation needed on that statistic. Let's, for the moment, take it at face
Well, look into it, maybe.
value. Who are the other 3 out of 4? 75% are not done by immigrants.
Yeah. How many people are in the country? What's the breakdown of immigrants versus non-immigrants? 16%. That's the AI overview, listen. But this says 9%. Oh, in 2004. I was risen to 16%. 2011, 13.8%. So 16% sounds about right. So 16% isn't 1 in 4. 1 in 4 is 25%. What they're suggesting then, and I'd have to look into to see if this is true, to be fair, but if so, then that would suggest that foreign nationals are committing these crimes at higher rates than natives. So there's a Telegraph article, convicted of nearly a quarter of sex crimes, so not quite 25%, not quite 1 in 4, but not super far away. This is 15% between 21 and 23. Whilst accounting for only 9.3%. Is that of the population? Assaults broken down by ethnicity. Oh, it's not going to answer. They don't like giving this kind of statistic out. Foreigners 3 times likely to be arrested for sex crimes as British suspects. I mean, there's not no basis for this. I can't conclusively say is 1 in 4. They've got this Nigel Farage video, but it's like 54 seconds long. I'm going to guess he doesn't, is this sourced or anything?
Report out shows that 1 in 4 sexual crimes and offences are committed by foreign-born.
Right, I made the mistake of scrolling down and it changed the video. I wasn't seeing any source. There is some evidence for this. It's not conclusive. I don't want to say that I agree that this is true, but it seems like it's around there based on what I've seen, which means that they're overrepresented, you know what I mean? Hi, Michelle's guitar lessons. More immigration, not less. Is that what you want, or is that about something else? I'm not sure. Hope you're good.
Or foreign nationals. You are provably going after a minority, not just an ethnic or racial.
Calm down. I don't know how anti-immigration I am myself, but like, I recognize that, you know, there are issues that have been caused by bringing people from all different kinds of walks of life, bringing people from different, you know, cultures that aren't necessarily incredibly compatible with ours. There's going to be some problems caused. And like, there's places where you get like enclaves. We've ended up with situations like the grooming gang stuff. There's no point just pretending none of that happens. There's no point just saying anyone that complains about immigrants is automatically bad or racist or something like that. I don't know how much I agree, but I'm not going to write them off that way.
Or foreign nationals. You are provably...
Like, why are you recording this when you're in this kind of emotional state? Calm the fuck down.
going after a minority, not just an ethnic or racial or social minority. You are singling out.
Yeah, this is like just a bad faith read. Obviously, they have their concerns about immigration and about certain kinds of foreign nationals. Just shouting at them about how they're going after minorities. That's like the most retarded level of engagement you can do. That's nothing.
The minority of offenders. Even if that number is real, you have made it your priority to try and...
Mate, even if that number is real, well, if that number is real, they are overrepresented, suggesting there's a problem there. But you won't engage with any... I mean, at this point, he's so fucking hopped up that I don't think he knows what the fuck he's reading or listening to or seeing. Like, oh my God.
And stop immigrants who are, at most, a quarter of the problem.
Well, they're not a quarter... Fucking hell. He doesn't do the most basic, like, search. He doesn't do the most basic, like, check of why this might be an issue. Like, foreign-born people are not 25% of our population. There could be a cultural aspect to some crimes. It's not an excuse to be racist, but you should still research the causes in order to deal with it efficiently. Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't really write people off. Like, people want to vote for, like, reform because they want lower immigration. I'm not going to write them off as fucking racist instantly. That's a retarded way of engaging. That's the kind of thing that anyone over the age of about fucking 12 should have grown out of by then.
And what's more, even if that number is real, they are ignoring what percentage of actual immigrants or foreign nationals are committing any kinds of crimes at all. They picked out a specific crime so they could pull a percentage, and they're using it as...
Well, yeah, but sex crime is quite serious, no? And the problem is, have you looked into other crimes?
...a proposal to stop immigration as a whole.
Like, how many people are, like, incarcerated? Okay, so incarceration is 11.9%. But then, I don't know, with sex crimes, it's a bit difficult because plenty of people never get incarcerated for that kind of shit. Yeah, so 12% of the prison population. That is lower, to be fair.
Deliberately ignoring what a small percent...
I was kind of yelling, shaming, see my victimhood type slop all the time. It's sad because she used to post good vids for the woke worm ate her brain. Yeah, I mean, I have no history with this channel, thankfully. Like, the kind of stuff they talk about is not really, or used to talk about, is not really my thing. I don't watch Doctor Who. I mean, I saw the Star Warses, like, I saw the first 6, but that was about it. And it's not something I really think about very often.
...percentage of immigrants or foreign nationals are committing any degree of crimes, or how many are women or children, but it's just saying we have to stop all of them. Because that's all...
They're not saying stop all of them. They might still think that some immigration is needed. They probably should, because there are certainly areas where we rely on, like, foreign labor, like, especially in healthcare. But they're saying they want to lower immigration, secure the borders, perhaps especially stop illegal immigration as much as possible. Like, the kind of conclusions we're jumping to, I guess you have to, like, find some way of padding out this video with these thin premises that you still get incredibly angry over. It's so cringe, man. What are you doing?
Always the point. If you actually cared about the safety of women, why would you do this? Why would this be your approach?
Mate, if you care about the safety of women, why are you angry at the fact that they've enshrined it as being biological sex? We can do that if you care about this bit bullshit all day. There's no such thing as right. Okay, are you trolling? Are you trolling now? I'll time you out if you want. I don't mind.
Of course, the 75%, the 3 out of 4, those are red-blooded Englishmen, and she has no interest in getting rid of them. She practically said...
Where are they going to go to? You're not going to what is it? You're not going to deport people from the UK to other countries. What the fuck are you talking about?
As much. Unless you think that this is an outlier and just a her problem, let us not forget that Kelly J. Keane-Minchell has regularly had neo-Nazis supporting her.
Oh, okay, we've got a Sean video. A neo-Nazi showed up to a rally because they agree with her on that one issue. This is not the own that you think it is. Like, fucking hell, all these people just have the same dumbass fucking points. Sean sucks, by the way. You actually watch his videos about people like Kelly J. Keane and J.K. Rowling. They suck. It's guilt by association, but that's precisely what you're doing. So obviously you endorse guilt by association.
At her events, and 2 years ago, a woman at a gender-critical rally literally quoted...
It's ethnicity. Well, race and ethnicity are synonyms. When people use the word race, what do they mean? Ethnicity. I don't know why you're being pedantic on this. I think you're wasting everyone's time.
Mein Kampf into a microphone while justifying her stance.
Mate, what do you think about peer review? What does this person think about peer review? Parts of Mein Kampf got fucking peer reviewed.
Against trans people. These are not outliers. This is the movement.
These are not out like, what, 3 people that you've shown? A handful of people? Yeah, there's a fair amount of people who in this country are right-wing and support lowering immigration. Plenty of people in your country as well.
And if they feel like they've won, they're not going to disperse and go home and put their feet up no matter how many selfies holding cigars J.K. Rowling puts out. They are going to do what fascists always do.
You haven't shown that they're fascists. Do you even know what a fascist is?
Which is to move on to their next target. Whether Jess Gill pivoted now because she thinks they've actually won or because she wants to just harness the momentum of a win to push on to the new issue, it doesn't really matter. Her pivot from transphobia to xenophobia is emblematic and is one much...
She pivoted, or has she always had these, like, positions?
Phobia is emblematic and is one much of the gender critical movement has already made, and I expect...
Much of the gender critical movement? How are you going to make that? Plenty of the gender critical movement are left-leaners. How are you going to make that? Like, you just say that and people believe you because you've got a high sub count? Get fucking real.
We'll see a large pivot in this direction from their biggest figureheads. Rowling already decided to start swiping at asexuals, which I talked about.
Swiping at asexuals? Well, why are we so obsessed with these labels? Why do you need a special fucking medal? Why do you need special days for recognizing that you don't find many people attractive? Who cares? Jess has held this position for years. Yeah, he's acting like it's a new thing. Most of those people, you're going to get fucking right-wingers that are also gender critical, obviously. Like, this is the stupidest thing I've watched in a while. I watched some very stupid things on my channel. I watched fucking Jammy Dodger talking about this shit, calling her Andrew Tate. And this is even worse somehow.
In this video, why would she stop there? It hasn't really cost her anything after all.
Why would she go after immigrants? I've never heard J.K. Rowling complaining about immigration. I've heard her talking about, oh, it's this Sean video. I've seen this Sean video. It sucks. It's all about guilt by association. It's all about shaming all these people. It's all about this person did this bad thing and this person said this once and this person's a bit mean sometimes on Twitter. It's a fucking bullshit video. What happened is someone called Peter Boghossian got sections of Mein Kampf. He reworded them a bit to make them about feminism or some shit. And he managed to get someone to peer review excerpts from Mein Kampf. Like, look it up if you don't believe me. Look up Mein Kampf peer review. It fucking happened. So what I'm saying is, you want to complain about someone saying something from Mein Kampf on one side. Well, these people love peer review because lots of trans science is peer reviewed, even if many of the studies that they do are not actually very high quality. But yet what's also been peer reviewed is Mein Kampf, the same thing that he's complaining about. That's what I'm trying to say.
And these are her friends now. This judgment is emblematic of TERF thinking. It takes the, I'm sorry, no matter how much you think it's simple,
Mate, I wouldn't trust you to correctly identify any kind of thinking because I don't think you do very much thinking.
Complicated subject of sex and boils it down to what one person thought they saw and wrote down on a piece of paper.
You replace the word Jew with man. Okay, fair enough.
It ignores science. It ignores humanity. It's trying to force...
Yeah, it ignores science. So this person probably has a lot of stock in, like, peer review. But literally, his least favorite fucking complain about Mein Kampf being read by some TERF person, which I agree is a bit weird. Don't know why you'd choose that out of anything.
One person thought they saw and wrote down on a piece of paper. It ignores science. It ignores humanity. It's what one person thought they saw and wrote down on a piece of paper. It
ignores science. Scientific American is not the be-all and end-all of science, my bro. Biologists think there is a larger spectrum. Well, they haven't really shown this very well. This is from 2018, by the way. Everyone was fucking woke as fuck in 2018. Around 2018 to 2022 was the peak of all this shit.
Ignores science. It ignores humanity. It's trying to force a complex world to take the shape of a simple one that conforms to what they want. And Prime Minister Keir Starmer...
Peer review means reviewed by others in the same field of expertise. Yes, and someone got Mein Kampf peer reviewed.
Head of the supposedly left-leaning Labour Party has already embraced the ruling wholeheartedly. And not just in the usual mealy-mouthed, oh, well, we'll abide by the court's ruling kind of way that you get from Democrats in the US. No, he actually called it a...
Wait, Michelle's guitar lesson. Were you one of the people that was like accusing me of deleting your comments? I'm pretty sure you were. I don't delete comments. YouTube is just a bit of a pain in the ass.
welcome step forward.
I'm sure it was you that left a comment saying my comment was removed. Now I couldn't even fucking find that.
Trans community in the UK are effectively without political allies, at least not from the two major parties. They are both against trans people right now in the UK. And
Centralizing, you don't live in this country. You've no idea what it's like. There was a amendment to a ruling saying what woman meant. Didn't even have anything to do with trans people. It's just that trans people are tangentially related because you've got some men that think they're women.
I cannot even begin to express my frustration, my fear, my sympathy for what is happening over there. And I know that I've already asked that you look into supporting trans folks in the US, but if you are in the UK, you should be focusing locally because you've got plenty of problems over there. And if you are...
No, you should be calming the fuck down, understanding you still have rights, and seeing how the dust settles. All this like protesting stuff is just making things worse. All of you people driving each other insane over these issues. You're just making things worse. Is gender a spectrum? I'm not convinced by that. I think gender is kind of everyone's unique experience. I think there are some things that are feminine, some things that are masculine, but is that like... I know. Gender is so fucking terribly defined that it's kind of difficult to make any kind of prescription on that, I guess.
You are in a position to help and you're not in the UK?
Like, even if gender's a spectrum, gender just means what is like socially considered more masculine or feminine. It really isn't anything innate.
Well, here's some organizations to consider supporting. This is not a comprehensive list, but it's a start. And in the meantime...
Wait, Stonewall? Didn't Stonewall remove a bunch of trans references? I thought they were bad now. Oh well.
All we can do is keep moving forward. Do our best to find the people who actually support us, support them in turn, get people who don't either actively want to see us wiped off the face of the earth or would be happy to stand by and let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, gender is still based on male and female, masculine, feminine. It seems more binary to me than anything, but... I know, I guess it's open to interpretation because gender is poorly defined and is a social construct. When we're talking about like innate sex, we are talking about sex. Like what your gender is kind of nonsense, to be quite honest. You gender yourself based on how you present yourself. Others people gender you based on what they see.
Into office, but all this takes time. It's still worth doing. This is the planning. This is the groundwork.
Okay, you're just repeating yourself, so I'm just going to ignore you.
That the right and gender criticals and TERFs and fascists have been doing pretty much out in the open for the last...
He loves the boogeyman labels, doesn't he?
Few decades. We've just been letting it happen.
All the right and fascists and like, I need a klaxon or something. I need a klaxon sound when he's talking about the right and gender criticals and TERFs and fascists and stuff. Like, come on, bro.
We can plan too. We can work to fix this too, but it's not going to be quick and it's not going to be easy.
Yes, and for some reason you think it's going to be handled by spouting the same slogans and filling up the streets with fucking weirdos that never leave their house for any other reason. The brain is hardwired for gender identity. What does that even mean? Your gender identity is a part of your identity in general. Like, you perceive yourself as more masculine or feminine. A gender identity is just calling yourself something. And like, your gender identity isn't set in stone because it's affected by outside forces. It's affected by your taste. It's affected by whether you tend to prefer feminine or masculine things. To say the brain is hardwired for gender identity is meaningless. It doesn't, what am I trying to say? It doesn't say anything about the validity of like gender identity as something that should be superseding sex. Like, that's all nonsense. Everyone has their identity, that everyone has what they think of themselves. You're not saying anywhere near as what you think you are by saying that. Gender identity is meaningless. Gender identity begins and ends in your head. Like, the fact that people want to force people to recognize each other's gender identity is fucking ridiculous.
And if you yourself or your loved ones are trans and you need to get away and get somewhere.
Give me an example of absolute male or female. Well, if you're male, you're male. If you're female, you're female. Sex is binary. Male and female are sex terms, not gender terms. Listen, if you want to, instead of like trying to debate bro everyone in my comments, you can fucking join Discord and we can talk. I don't mind. Much rather you people like fucking put up or shut up, quite frankly.
Where you feel safer, I really hope that you have the means and the ability to do that. And in the meantime, as bad as things are here, I'm not going to pretend that they're okay over there. And it's compounded by everything.
Yeah, saying it's a neurological structure is meaningless. Your gender identity is still affected by all sorts of outside forces. You still have to be able to think and decide what your gender identity is. So it's a choice. Gender identity is actually just a choice. And it's just calling yourself something.
It's compounded by people like Rowling. It's compounded by the BBC. It's compounded by now both the Labour and the Tory party. Much like what's happening in the US. The BBC. It's compounded by now both the Labour and the Tory party. Much like what's happening in the US.
All of this over an amendment to a ruling so that males can't take up female spaces on diversity quotas. This guy is nuts.
That is where I make my home and where I was born, grew up. And
he's doing the quiet voice now because he's trying not to cry. This person, listen, I don't know for a fact, but they give off like abuser energy, like manipulative as fuck energy. That this is all about manipulating people's emotions and not actually appealing to fact and reality.
Have made my own family. I'm not going to just sit back while the country that 400 years ago my family originated from, because I've got
Tories catching strays. I mean, listen, the puberty blocker ban started under the Tories. I'm not a fan of the Tories, but hey, I think it's a good thing.
got ancestors came over on the goddamned Mayflower. Multiple, actually. But I am no more comfortable seeing
the goddamn Mayflower. Like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? This is so pathetic.
My country of origin, for both sides of my family, being pulled apart and infected with this than I am the country that my family has been here since before the founding of. It's all a disaster. And I needed to say something. Sorry that this is depressing. And like I said, next weekend's video is not going to be any lighter. It's also not something I ever wanted to talk about. Again,
you don't want to talk about things, don't talk about them. You're not helping anything anyway. What you're doing is making a twat out of yourself and showing yourself to be incredibly irrational.
But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. In the meantime, I
hope you're good.
Really hope that you are able to
Yeah. This person's life is so hard with all this shit on the shelves and all the thousands of dollars he makes every month. He hates that he's a colonizer. Yeah, most of these people hate themselves for one reason or another. That's why they all tell me that I hate myself, because they're actually just projecting.
Take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and be safe out there. There's the usual stuff. Yes, I have a Patreon. Yes, I have YouTube memberships, all that. Look, it's all down in the description if you care about that. I don't feel...
Yeah, give me even more money, please. Listen, I don't want to have to sell my toys. Fucking hell.
I like doing the usual full spiel.
Mate, you're just talking about gender. Gender is just stereotypes. It's just what is perceived as masculine or feminine in society, in various cultures. Social gender, gender identity, gender expression, you're just trying to make it more complicated than it is. It isn't that complicated, but you have to make it more complicated and pretend that there's some function for it in the brain so that you can pretend that it's innate and you can pretend that your gender identity has any bearing on anything. It doesn't. This person's gender identity has no bearing on the fact that he is male. Your sex is like objective. All of this gender stuff is subjective. You go to a different part of the world, people might not see you as a woman anymore if you're trying to portray yourself as one, because you might be doing things that are actually quite masculine. And so, if you're a man and you like things in your culture that are feminine, so you feel like you want to transition, become female, but then you move somewhere else where everything you like is like considered masculine, wouldn't you just stay as a man? It doesn't really make any sense.
Because what I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council, and I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. And now to thank my high supporting patrons, Robin Moore, Goddess Alive.
And now to thank all the people that already give me way too much money. Okay, bro. Okay, bro.